Welcome, everyone, to the very first in our series of summer webinars for Book Creator, using Book Creator in the one iPad classroom. I am so excited to be here with you today. My name is Monica Burns, and if you've been on Book Creator's YouTube channel, you might have seen me present some webinars last fall for the awesome team at Book Creator. I'm a former New York City public school teacher from a one-to-one iPad classroom. I'm out of the classroom right now, working with teachers all over the country and different parts of the world, and of course sharing my favorites on my website, classtechtips.com, especially Book Creator. And so we're going to talk today about Book Creator in the one iPad classroom. Now, before we get started, those of you who are joining us live, a few logistics. You'll notice there's the Go To Webinar Control Panel on the right-hand side of the screen. If you hit the little orange arrow, it'll collapse. And if it goes away and you want it back, you can hit the orange arrow again to bring it back out. If you have questions as we go through today, I'm going to pause at different spots to check the question box. You can go ahead and type in a question if you have a question. And that's where I'll be able to see what you're thinking, listen in, and make sure I address any of your questions, those of us who joined live today. So we're going to start off with a quick poll. I'm going to take over your screen and ask a question. So go ahead and tell me, how familiar are you with Book Creator? Choose one and hit submit. Oh, it looks like we have almost an even split for people who are totally brand new to Book Reader and those that have used it a few times. We've got a pro on the line, which is awesome, but a pretty big split between our brand new folks and I've used it a few times, which is great because we're going to do a quick overview of the tool. So if you're brand new, you'll be ready to go, even if it's the first time you've opened it up before. So tell me, and now you can choose more than one for this. What grade levels do you teach or support? Maybe you're working in a first grade classroom, maybe you're supporting teachers in high school. Go ahead, you can click more than one, and it looks again like we have a really nice split of the attendees who voted so far. About 55% work with K2 students, about 38% work with students in 9-12. And remember, these aren't going to add up to 100 because we can choose more than one box. But in about half of you work with 3-5 or 6-8. So a nice wide range. And don't worry, today we're going to talk about things that are great for everyone in all of these grades. Lots of ideas and resources to help you jump in and get started. And the last area, and again, you might pick more than one of these, what areas do you teach or support? And if yours is not on the list, if you're one of our others, you can even type that into the question box if you want to kind of give us a shout out as well. So Joanna said she teaches age 10, so that's like about a fifth grade class here in the States. But that's helpful to know, so thank you for sharing. It looks like about 3/4 of us have filled out the poll so far. Lots, almost 3/4 have English language arts that they're teaching. About half work with math, science, and social studies. Some of our others, which Amanda says includes her tech and STEM role. Joanne's K5 elementary tech integration support. So awesome, awesome there. And so what we're going to do right now, I'm going to close out our poll and we're going to be ready to jump in. So today we're starting off a summer webinar series by talking about using Book Creator in the one iPad classroom. Now, whether you found this webinar from peeking around Book Creator's site, a Facebook post, a Twitter post, or if you're a follower of my blog, we have 4 more coming up over the next few months in June, July, and August. One will be on Check for Understanding with Book Creator, creating ebooks to document field trips and special events, creating comics in the classroom, and getting started with Book Creator for Chrome. Yeah, you heard that right, Chrome, because we'll be off iPads or just iPads soon, and an additional opportunity to access on Chrome as well. So if you do want to get into one of the other webinars, you can go to bookcreator.com/webinars, and I even put that in the chat space today. So you'll be able to find that link, and don't worry, I'll remind you at the end as well. So for those of you who are new to Book Creator, it is a fantastic app. It's an open-ended creation tool. That means when you open it up, there's no level 1 or level 2 or do this or do that. It's an open-ended creation tool. You can make whatever you want, which makes it fantastic for lots of different projects, lots of different activities as well. So really a special thing where you can jump in and have a very customizable experience as you and your students create and publish books. So Book Creator is available on iPads and coming soon Chrome, so that'll be ready for all devices in your classroom. There's a free version of Book Creator and a paid version of Book Creator. I hope that you've got your iPad next to you because I'm going to give you some chance to play today. So you can download either the free or the paid version. The big difference when we talk about these two is that the free version lets you make only one book, or the paid version you can make lots and lots of books. So this is an iPad app that is also available as part of the volume purchasing program of VPP, which means you can buy them in bulk and get a discount, which makes it a really special opportunity if you are loading up a whole bunch of iPads over the course of the summertime to get your kids ready for school in the fall. So what can you make with Book Creator? A couple of you said that you, or I should say half of you said that you're totally new to this awesome tool. So you see Book Creator right there on the right-hand side of the screen. What can you make? Well, you can have students create digital portfolios, poetry books, step-by-step guides, science reports, learning journals, comics, you name it. The idea here is that you have students opening up an open-ended creation tool that lets them do lots of different things. I use a phrase all the time, tasks before apps, right? When you have an open-ended, fantastic creation tool, it's all about the task that you ask students to complete. So what are you giving them space to do? Maybe they're taking a bunch of their poems. Each student is putting one poem on a page in your one iPad classroom, or maybe students are using that device to transfer their step-by-step guides or snap pictures of their illustrations. I mean, so much you can do with Book Creator. We're scratching the surface today. We're going to give you an overview of Book Creator so that you know how it works, and lots of ideas for the classroom with just one iPad and one Book Creator app on it as well. So remember, as we go through today, if I say something and you're thinking, or what's that? Or I haven't heard that before, or can you do this? Go ahead and put it in that question box. Go ahead and put that in the question box on the right-hand side. And that'll help me notice what you're thinking or what questions you have so I can address them at different points of the webinar. And don't worry if you're thinking that this is something where I'm going to give you way too much information all at once. We're recording this webinar. We'll share the webinar with you, and that's the same for the other webinars. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to be on vacation in the middle of August, I won't be able to make the other webinars, you can go ahead and sign up there, and we will make sure that you get that recording, that you have it in your inbox, and that you can watch, review, and be ready to share it when you head back to school. So how are teachers using Book Creator? Well, in lots of different ways. They are using it to publish student work, to have kids demonstrate their understanding, to provide opportunities for kids to work together and promote collaboration in their classroom, to set a purpose for learning by giving kids a clear task and space to complete that task, and the opportunity to create for an authentic audience. So students are publishing ebooks that show what they know, working with others with a clear task in mind to share their work with the world. So maybe it's local sharing, global sharing, you name it. So teachers are using this awesome tool in lots of different ways. If you have been to Book Creator's website, you probably already know that they have a special educator section full of case studies, lots of ideas, some of which I'm going to highlight today, where you can click on any of the squares and it'll take you out to different activities, different blog posts, different examples of student work. So you'll have lots and lots of ways to use this awesome tool in your classroom, ideas, inspiration, you name it. I bet by the time you start using this with your kids, you're going to want to write your own blog post to share with the folks at Book Creator too. So just a few of my favorite stories, and in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the bit.ly with a short link, but of course, if you just type in the title at the top, you'll bring up the book creator blog post on their blog as well. So second graders use book creator to share family history with grandparents. So because this tool lets you record voice and type text, they can capture interviews and have their voice on the page ready for their audience to listen to. So awesome favorite activity there. You might have students like these ones in this blog post or this shared case study on Book Creator's website create ebooks to talk about the weather. So snapping pictures, drawing on the screen, and documenting their learning to create ebooks. And today we're talking about the One iPad classrooms. We're going to share some strategies for how your kids can all collaborate and make just one fantastic book totally together. In an older classroom, one of the great stories on Book Creator's blog is all about using Book Creator to create multimodal factual text. So this means that they are able to create a text that has lots of different types of media, making it perfect for their audience to interact with quickly, easily, and jump right in to their interactive book. And of course, today we're talking about the One iPad classroom, so you might have kids collaborating on a whole bunch of pages together, snapping pictures, submitting the pictures to you, recording their voices in different spots, making contributions to the class book in this manner. This story about expanding your students' horizons with global collaboration, each class actually made one page, so working together to make one page and send it off to someone who is making a book with stories from lots of different schools. So way amazing in terms of what you can have your students do with just one iPad. And of course, those collaborative projects can be shared and posted and made sure that everyone can see them, like this alphabet book, which is an example we'll talk about today, that you could use at any grade level to help everyone contribute to one special book for your class. So we talked a little bit about how teachers are using it, but why are they teaching with Book Creator? So why are teachers using Book Creator in their classrooms? Well, there are interactive pages. There's a ability to combine lots of different media. So whether that's text, images, video, illustrations, snapshots, you name it. There's accessibility support, so you are able to make sure that your books that you publish can be read on guided access, that have links and alt text ready so that anyone could read and experience the book. And of course, the final products are super shareable, whether every student is making their own or you have students that are contributing just one page. So let's jump into Book Creator. We're going to do a quick overview of what you can do in Book Creator, what it looks like, what the interface looks like. And as we do this, I'm going to encourage you to have your iPad next to you with Book Creator open on your device so that you can tap the screen and play along and make a book with us today. If you are thinking, Monica, you are moving a little too fast for me. I'm brand new to Book Creator. I'm going to get some ideas from you, but I'm going to need some support later on. Don't worry. I'll make sure that you have the link to the Book Creator webinar page, not just with our new webinars coming up, but our old webinar recordings, so you can watch the slower getting started with Book Creator webinars. But today I'm going to give you a quick overview for those of you who are totally new to the tool, and then we are going to jump into some ideas I think you'll love for your one iPad classroom. And so when you open up Book Creator, you've got a couple different options: portrait, square, landscape, and in comic mode down there at the bottom. So when you are choosing to do a book in just your one iPad classroom, I recommend having each student make their own page on the iPad for a collaborative book. This means you might have every student make their own page aligned to a particular task. One of the task cards I'll share with you later kind of gives an overview of what you might say to students to set them up for this. So that way, when they open this up, they're going to do what I'm doing now, and I've got my screenshots instead of sharing my iPad screen, but I would tap on the landscape and choose the landscape, which will fill up my whole screen. Now, the first page that's going to pop up is the cover, which you see underneath the timestamp on my iPad screenshot. The cover is something you'd probably want your students to skip over. You might design the cover yourself or have a couple kids go back and do it afterwards. All they have to do is hit the arrow button on the right-hand side, and they can make a new page. It's easy for you to rearrange pages later too by hitting the Pages button all the way in the upper left-hand corner. So as you get ready to jump into Book Creator, you'll see the special plus sign in the upper right-hand corner. This lets you add something to the page. So you might add something like a photograph. That's a photo already saved to your device. You might add a picture you're going to take right there in the moment and with the camera. You might use the pen tool to draw on the screen or illustrate or annotate. You might use the text tool to type in something or copy and paste text from somewhere else. You might add a sound like a voice recording as well. So let's go ahead. I'm going to take you through this. If I go ahead and hit on the inspector button up here at the top, this can be where I can change the background if I want the color to look a little bit different. But if I go back to my plus sign here and I add my photo, it takes me out to my photo library. And when I go into my photo library, I have an album full of pictures from the Bronx Zoo. And so I can tap on one of these pictures and add it to my slide. And so my page. And so you see on this slide, you'll notice I've already put my image on the page and I've tapped on it. And now I know that I've tapped on it because I've selected it with this blue dots on all the corners. When I do that, I can hit my eye inspector button and I can add some things to the image. I can hyperlink it. I can put an alternative text for the image, making it accessible and friendly for guided access. And I can even rearrange it if I have a couple different things on the page. So now it's your turn. I want you to open up Book Creator and I want you to try adding an image to a page. Maybe it's a picture that's saved on your iPad, but go ahead and take a moment or two to add an image to your page as I will peek into the question box and see if there's any questions. So take just a minute or two to open up Book Creator and add an image to your page. Awesome. So now you should have a picture on your page. You hit the plus sign at the top right-hand corner of Book Reader and add an image to your page. If you're not quite there, you can keep playing along with us as we move through and do a few more fun things here on our page as well. So going back up there and hitting that plus sign, right? I've got my image there. Now I want to add with something with my pen tool. I'm ready to draw. So tapping on my pen tool, I'll get a couple different options that pop up. My screen kind of goes this, somewhat translucent. I can see through, but this is my sketch pad where I'm going to add my drawing. So I can choose any color that I want. I can even hit the more button if I want a really specific color to bring in. And I can go ahead and change the thickness as well of my pen here. And don't forget there's an erase button in case you make a mistake. So I'm just going to draw an arrow on my page. So drawing an arrow on top of my picture there. And when I hit done in the upper right hand corner, it'll pop up and now it becomes its own little item with those blue dots around it. So when I tap to select it, just like I selected my image, I'm able to now move that arrow around, make it larger or smaller, and fit it right there on the page. So I go back up now to my plus sign, my add, and I'm going to go ahead and add some text. So there's my title, My Trip to the Bronx Zoo. Now, I don't know where it is. Where is it? I'll show you. Don't worry. I'm writing just My Trip to the Bronx Zoo. There's no way to change the font or the color or the size just yet. This is just for you to put into your text. So then we hit done, and here, just like before when I had selected these other items, I tapped here. It's surrounded in blue, and I have my eye inspector button up here. Once I tap my eye inspector, it lets me do a lot of things. I can move the text so I find the right size. and change it between bold, italic, or underline. I can move my alignment around as well, or I can tap here and change the font. So you see I have my font, I tap there, and then it changes the font. And I want to highlight something for you that's super important and notable, that I think is just really worth sharing because you don't see it in lots of tools. And I get asked this question all the time when I'm working with teachers in different spaces and places. This open dyslexic font is one that is friendly for students who have dyslexia. It can help students who are struggling as readers with that. So you can tap on Open Dyslexia and it'll change the font. Or you can come back here and you can go to your background button, and this will fill in your blue with whatever space you want, and it'll be yellow in the background. Now I know I'm moving through these pieces quickly, and I'll make sure that I give you resources for those of you who are totally brand new to Book Creator as well. But now let's take a minute to play around and try this out. So I want you to try using the pen tool, add an illustration, add some text to the page, or change the font and color on your page. While I peek into our question box, answer any questions, it's your chance to play. So I see a question Lisa asked about the microphone option at the bottom when you're adding text. So when you go to that plus sign in the upper right hand corner, there's the option to add your voice. We'll talk about that one in just a second. And Abigail, I saw your note about the August webinars. There might be an issue a little bit with the link. I'll double check on that and make sure to send it back out to you all as well. So as you're diving in, try now using the pen tool, adding an illustration that you draw onto your page, changing the font and the color. Go ahead. Oh, Lisa, I understand your question now about the dictation, right? So I'm going to come back out here. Everyone else still try, but I want to answer Lisa's question. So you see here, when I go to type in my text, this button right down here, this would be my talk to text or voice to text button. If I tap on that, then it will use the powers of Siri to capture my voice and turn it into text. So you might see students do that. That button's going to be here on your keyboard. If you don't see it, it might be disabled on your device. Some schools disable that, and then you just have to go in the settings and make that available again. Great question. So as you're going through now, try out that pen tool, draw and add a quick illustration to your page, maybe add a little bit of text, maybe even try out that voice to text tool that Lisa mentioned, and see if you can play around a little bit with the font and color. Take just another minute or so to play with that now on your own screen. Awesome. So you can keep playing around. I want to show you another piece that I think you'll love. This is the ability to add sound. And so when you add sound, you are going to tap the top of the screen and add sound button here. What this will do is it will use the microphone on your device. So if it's the first time you try tapping that, you might see a special message that says, give Book Creator permission to access your voice and your microphone. You want to make sure you say yes. If you or your students say no for some reason, right, you're just tapping that button because you don't want to sign up. You think, I always get that gut reaction that maybe it's a sign up for button or something, right? But you just say yes. It's okay to use my voice in this ebook I'm making with the awesome Book Creator. You can tap on the screen. And add your voice on each page. But if for some reason you said no the first time, you just go into settings, into your privacy, and give it the OK. So what you're going to do here is you tap on the screen and you record your voice. Now, you might have students tilt the iPad so they're talking into the microphone a little bit quicker. Maybe you have a microphone set up in a station, but in a one iPad classroom, you'll have students that are taking turns or moving through stations to contribute their voice to a page, so it won't be as noisy as it might be in a classroom where everyone is recording at once. Once you record, you can go ahead and hit the button down there at the bottom. You can move it around just like you can move a picture around. I saw a question come in about slanting the picture. All you need to do is grab it with your fingers and spin it in the direction that you want it to go. So same thing here when you're going to add your voice. So this you can make smaller or larger. You might want the button to be really small if it's going to have a lot of other things going on the page. If it's going to be mostly a voice book or you're working with younger students, you might want to expand this so it makes that button a little bit bigger and easier for them to find. So when you have that sound that you've added to your page, you can hit the inspector button, learn a little bit more about the length of it, make it invisible or move it back to front with certain items as well. So lots of options. So remember when we came out here to add something before, we didn't see this because we were on the media side of this page. If I tap the shapes side of this page, now I have the opportunity to add all sorts of shapes to my page. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on this magenta circle and I can add that to my page. I can move it around. I could put text on top of it. Lots of different options, just another element to explore. So now you try, as I dive into our questions, try recording your voice, adding that audio to a page, maybe adding some shapes or moving some things around on your page. Go ahead and I'll jump into some of our questions in the question box while you play around to create your one page. Yep, Joanna, I see your question about having two separate drawn items. If you want them to be separate and move them around separately, you draw, hit done, and then you can rearrange it, and then you go to add another thing with your pen tool. Awesome. I see we have some people who joined in as well. Don't worry, I'll send you all the links to what we've done during the first half, so you'll make sure that you get that too. Yep, and I saw Glorianne asking us about our upcoming trainings. The questions only I see when they come in, or the responses, I should say, only I see when people type in the question box. If you go down to the chat button at the bottom, there you will see the link that I put in for the book creator webinars, or when I send a message out to the whole group, you'll be able to find it there. So keep your questions coming in, and I'm going to give you just another minute or two to go ahead and try out Book Creator with these special voice recording, adding audio to the page, putting some shapes and moving around some of the things on your page. Great question, Liam, about adding audio to the circle. You can move that audio button right over to the circle, and when you tap on it, you can have that as an extra figure, and you can do that with any of the shapes. You can layer them once you select a shape and hit the inspector button in the upper right-hand side of the screen. So we're going to jump in right now to talk a little bit about what your current routine is to make the most of using one iPad. So you've had a chance to play around a little bit with Book Creator, get a feel for some of the things that you can do, or a refresher if you've used Book Creator before. I want you to think about one iPad in your classroom. What are your current routines? How are you making the most of using one iPad? Go ahead and tap the questions box, and in just a sentence or a couple words, share with me and I'll share with our group today, what are your current routines for making the most of using one iPad in your classroom? Awesome. I hear that we're doing green screening with one iPad in the classroom. Great way to make use of that. I see some of us have plenty of iPads, so sometimes they're don't have to worry about just the one iPad in some of the ways we'll talk about today. Sharing in small groups or rotating in stations. Awesome, Joanne. That's totally what we're going to talk about when we start making our shift to thinking about making the most of one iPad. Adam mentioned creative projects and videos. So when kids might be sharing the screen together, great. Using iMovie and rotating in stations. Awesome, Abigail. iMovie is a great one to app smash, if you've heard that term before, with Book Creator. So that's fantastic. Same thing with Keynote, which I'm going to give you a show you just real quick. Awesome. Great, so let's go ahead and jump in. If you've got a story to tell or you want to share something from a strategy from making the most of one iPad, whether it's your one iPad classroom or just a best practice, go ahead and add that to the page or the question box, and I'll peek as we go through. So we're going to think about some of the things that makes the one iPad classroom special, right? I started teaching when I just had one iPad, my teacher iPad, I would call it, before my students got their delivery of iPads. There were months where we were just working with that one iPad, that one device in the classroom. And so what makes a one iPad classroom special is that you have some unique challenges that often facilitate more opportunities for collaboration, for talk around tasks than you might have if each child had their own device sitting right in front of them. So when you're collaborating with peers, students can build transferable skills. They can connect with other students near and far. They compromise, they elevate their critical thinking skills as they talk and work together. So when they have a common goal, they can collaborate with peers inside their classroom by contributing pages, to a class book, by leaning over and talking about things together. So there are lots of different ways to think about the power of one iPad, and one thing I always like to share is the power of the shared screen. So the opportunity to have kids leaning over with elevated student talk, strong peer partnerships, and you providing clear expectations for what you want your students to be able to do once they have their iPad in front of them. So this might be something where you're thinking about your priorities, including some of what we might call a soft skill, right? Or when we want students to be able to really practice and talk about something together. There's lots of research on the power of shared screen and kids leaning over and creating together. So in a one iPad classroom, you might be in a blended learning model where students are using devices every once in a while. There's a couple devices in the classroom. Maybe one of them is an iPad, and students are using them in conjunction with more traditional tasks. You might use a station rotation where you have one iPad in one station of your classroom, and your kids circulate from groups of 3 or 4 to that iPad station, and when they get there, they all work together on one page. Or students rotate in and out and have turns with that iPad every once in a while, and they might see it a couple times a week to contribute to a page that they're working on for a special book. It's important when there's only one iPad that you have a clear task for students when they do get that iPad with Book Creator on it. So you want to make sure that that is clearly communicated to them, that they know what it is that they're supposed to do. And that can be a short, sustained activity if it is going to be in a station rotation or a model where kids have access to the device for just a short period of time. And so this is something that you want to think about before you are introducing the app to students, right? What is your expectation? When will they have time to interact with it? What supports will you have for them at individual stations when they start moving through as well? So I want to share with you a couple tasks, and I promise that they fall into our K-12 range. You can tailor these examples to any of your groups of students. The first task is the kind of task card you could have at a station where there's one iPad and maybe you have one student working independently or 2 students working together. They're going to create a collaborative book, and their goal, their task that you've given them, is to recommend a new book to a friend. You're going to have them include a voice recording telling why they love that book and an illustration of their favorite character. So in this task, you've told them one thing that you want them to do, recommend a book to a new friend. You've asked them to use specific types of media, including using voice recording to tell why they love their book, and using the illustration tool to draw their favorite character. Now, for older students, your expectation might be for them to use the text tool to type in a response using evidence from the text, or to snap a picture of the front cover of their book using the camera and adding it to a page. But your end goal here in this one iPad classroom is that you will have created a book with pages from each student, and they had a very specific task to do. So now you have a book of our favorite read aloud books or chapter books for your class to then share. Another task asks students to locate a primary source document from a bookmarks list. So you might have that bookmarked on the iPad already, or some QR codes to scan with primary source documents. Ask them then to connect that document that they've chosen to a conversation that you've had on a particular topic, to a reading that they've done in another period of their class. Maybe they do this in partners, and that one iPad circulates within stations. So by the end of the week, each partnership has had a chance to locate and talk about a primary source document and connect it to some of the things that you're doing in your curriculum. Another example is to ask students, when they go to that station, their group of 3 or 4 students, to grab that iPad and find a shape in their classroom. They can each snap a picture of 4 different shapes, label the shapes, and write a sentence that describes that shape to their readers. So it really comes down to having a clear task for students. You know what you want them to do. You've communicated for them. They're either working independently in a station rotation where by the end of the week, everyone might get that one iPad, or they're working in partnership. So when their whole group goes to that station, they're able to access the device and create something in partnerships together. So as I'm going through here, if you have questions about any of the pieces that I'm mentioning, or ideas that this gets your wheels spinning, you can go ahead, of course, and add it there in that question box. So I want to share a strategy that you might decide to use if you are going to have students using just one iPad in your classroom with BookReader. I love templates because this can help move things a little bit quicker, especially for students who might not use the device all the time, or might need a little bit more planning time, and you're going to support them in this manner. So templates are like your outlines for a page. It's kind of a fill in the blank, and can help with collaborative products where you want each page to feel a little bit similar. It becomes like an instant checklist for kids too, because they know that they've had to fill in all the blanks in order to create their page or their contribution. So you can create templates in Book Creator. You can create them with lots of different tools. I like using it with Keynote. I know someone mentioned Keynote earlier as one tool that they use in their one iPad classroom all the time. So I will go into Keynote and I will make a slide. Then I will take that slide and I will snap that picture, just take that screenshot of it or export it as a JPEG. And when I have that picture, that slide I made in Keynote, of course, just dragging in different shapes and putting text on the page. It's kind of like you snap a picture, you print a PDF of it. It's not going anywhere. The kids can't move it around or anything like that. And then you can have them import it into Book Reader, and they're able to drag in text, drag in a picture, and chronicle a moment of their life. So this example is kind of like what you could do for a class journal entry, where over the week everyone has the opportunity to put a page in the class journal. So maybe your journal, that entries the week are all going to be about what's your favorite thing that you did this summer or you did this spring, and you can have kids drag in their text, move their picture into the box, and be ready to go with a final product. So what I'd like you to do right now is go ahead and in that question box, think, what are some collaborative activities students could complete with one iPad? You've given them Book Creator, you've introduced it to your class. What can your kids do with that one iPad in a station rotation? I gave you some ideas that are specific to read alouds, math shape exploration, primary source document. Think about your own kids, your group, or the teachers that you support. How's a way that you could use that Book Creator app with just one iPad in your classroom? Awesome. Rebecca was thinking about Daily 5 as a way for students to participate in that activity. Glorianne mentioned about assessments, right? So great for a way to publish final, like end of unit assessments, like a writing piece. Everyone gets one page and can put their writing on each page for a collaborative piece. Mira mentioned a collaborative story where kids might go through and they can add to a story. Awesome. Liam's thinking about an evaluation or giving feedback on something that they've studied as well. Their favorite for the school year. Great end of year project for those of you who are still in class. I love Katie's idea of thinking of like an About Me book or a Who Are We book for the class of students that she works with, where they all can create one page about them. Yeah, Lisa's thinking about creating templates specifically for the Freyer's model, which is an awesome idea. By doing that, you can really set kids up for success, especially if they're used to that graphic organizer as well. Katie's thinking about having kids create a revision guide for students. Rebecca also mentioned a bell ringer, so they can each answer a new question on a new page. I love that as they come in, kind of like their sign in and respond that way. Camille likes that shapes idea I shared where everyone can snap a picture and they'll have different shapes they found within a classroom or space. Abigail's mentioning like a special a book that focuses really on events. So it might be something like the Revolutionary War events and everyone has their own event and they can contribute to that in a book. Maria was talking about writing book reviews. Debbie's students might take their one book reader app and focus on different parts of a habitat. Debbie, that's an awesome idea for ABC books too, when each kid has a different letter in the alphabet to contribute as well. Awesome. A quick question Joy was thinking for kids to add their response to before reading for leaving for stations or leaving for the next activity that they go to. Awesome. So lots of fantastic ideas coming in. Joanne was saying you could even compile a book of photos taken throughout the year, like a year in review. What a great way for your kids to contribute to an online or digital library in your school as well. So keep these ideas coming in. If you have any other questions about things we talked about today too, this might be a time to bring it in, but I'm going to give a couple more shout outs for some of these ones as well. Mira was saying how she might have students make a personal connection to a quote or something and see how different students interpret it. That's awesome. Joy also was thinking about some morning work. I know Joanna was thinking transition work too might be a great piece to do. Mitzi's thinking about how this might be something where kids can draw and use that pen tool to show their understanding. It's something similar they might do in like a screencasting or something like that as well. And Storm mentioned about teaching how to just get their students to be thinking a little bit about English language learners and speaking English as well. So a couple of questions are coming in right now that I want to make sure to answers. When the students print out their book, they can share it in lots of different ways. And so when they are sharing their work, they can share it as a digital copy, an ebook that can go into a library. They can print it out, so it's PDF. It depends on the spacing. When you print it out, I saw a question come in there from Rebecca about spacing when you print as a PDF. If you just go to your print settings, you may be able to move some things around so that that becomes clear for your reader and their text is nice and big as well too. So for next time, whether you join us at our very next webinar or you skip around a little bit and join us later in summer, I'm going to ask you to create a book. Create that book. Maybe even publish that book. You can always tweet it at me or at Book Creator app, and you can share that online, because the best thing about taking some time out in the summertime, if you're with us live today, is that you can create an exemplar. You can make a product that when you go back to school in the fall, if you're on that schedule, then you can bring that in, show students, and get them interested and excited about making their own books as well. So I see a couple more questions coming in. I'm going to answer all of these for sure right now, but don't forget, if you go to the chat button down at the bottom, you'll see a link for bookcreator.com/webinars. That's where you'll find all the other ones. So some questions coming in right now to wrap us up. In our last moment here, Camille asked about adding the template. You would have that template saved to your One iPad's photo library, and kids can just import that photo and put it on the back of their page. Sherry asked if there's a link to watch an archived version of this webinar. You bet. I'm recording this right now. The folks from Book Creator are going to upload it to YouTube, so you'll be able to watch it there, and I'll make sure everyone gets the recording in the next few days or so. Just keep a lookout on in your inbox for that as well. Great question. And so, of course, if you head over to YouTube and you search for Book Creator, you'll find Book Creator's channel with lots of pre-recorded webinars. But if you want to join us later this summer for Check for Understanding with Book Creator, creating ebooks to document field trips and special events, creating comics in the classroom, or getting started with Book Creator for Chrome, Chrome is coming this summer, you'll want to check out there. So thank you all so much for joining us. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me, monica@classtechtips.com. You can get all the dates and times for the upcoming webinars and more info about when Chrome will be available by heading over to bookcreator.com. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for joining us.